And so I went in to study neuroscience to become a neuroscientist because I really went in to sort of understand the human psyche beyond psychology, right? Because it affects our whole being, our body, how we show up in this universe, how we're all interconnected. And I started to see patterns amongst all of these things, like new technology, innovation. Even in science, we're doing things like gene editing with CRISPR technology and with AI, and we're talking about consciousness and crypto. And I just thought, really what's happening here is I just see a pattern amongst all these things. They look like different disciplines, but actually they're all the same. They're all about our future, and they're all happening now. But most people don't realize that. They think it's a sci-fi movie.
Hello and welcome to Pathways Unleashed, a special edition of Pathways with Amber Stitt. The Pathways Unleashed podcasts were recorded with special guests and the authors of The Unleashed Entrepreneur and The Biohacking Entrepreneur, who were celebrating the book launches at the Unleash Your Superpower conference in Delray Beach, Florida in April 2025. Let's join the conversation. Hi. Okay, so we just talked to your homegirl, Rachel.
I know.
Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Awesome. All right. So congratulations to your week. You are officially, we've been saying it, but not sure how to say you're published author in this chapter of this book, right?
Yeah, it's really exciting.
And it's right there. We just finally got them. I don't even know whose copy that is. You can hold it. The people that are still alive, we are all day long today celebrating amazing co-authors. And Jawna and I have been seeing each other on Zooms and waving hello. And we're really going to get down to the nitty gritty and talk about the good stuff. And I love your chapter because, or especially having you towards the end, there's been a lot of entrepreneurial talk. You have an amazing story. You've done amazing things that I probably don't even know, but a lot of people are fangirling the fact that you live or still live on a boat. But like, there's all these things that you are doing, but the pulling it all together and pulling this, how you see life and the energy behind the neuroscience, going with your gut. Like, I kind of want to unpack and not give away your chapter, but it's almost like trusting yourself a little bit more. So there's that aspect of you and like being a scientist. Yes.
Yeah.
But then going way into the future with your work. And then we just talked with Rachel about it too, but you're going to the core elements of life, but then you're also going way into the future and innovating. So there's a couple ways I want to go through that without giving away your chapter that we're going to book signed this week. So really appreciate you being here. Let's go back a little bit and talk about, there's some things I want to tee up, mainly like life is short until you extend it. So that's something I pulled from your chapter I really liked. Let's go back to some of your work and what got you to this place of really helping others through the work you're doing today.
Yeah.
It started back in the day and it wasn't always the same as what you're doing now. So let's go a little origin story on you.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm very excited to be here and to meet you live in person. This is very cool. So thank you for saying all that, because a lot of people say to me, you work in crypto, you work in neuroscience, you work in tech, you work in venture capital. What are you doing? They're all over the place. And my philosophy is that actually these are all the future and they're happening now.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many people don't have access to this information for a whole host of reasons. A lot of it comes down to financial wherewithal. A lot of it comes down to whether or not you were born into privilege, to have the education and everything. And I just feel like we're in a time where information, in my opinion, should be made freely available everywhere. And so I have had this philosophy for a very long time that democratization of information that is typically gatekept by, I don't want to call anyone out, but just say higher institutions or finance or venture capital or even the medical and scientific community. I don't think it was always done intentionally. It was just because we live in a litigious society and there's all these reasons why we gatekeep. And I thought, here I am having all of these different experiences and education. And I felt like I wanted to share it with people because I work with people from all over the world, from all different backgrounds. Some of them have zero education. Some of them left school when they were 8 years old to help support their family, from all over the world. And these are incredible people. And I thought, there's so many people in the world that are unbanked, that don't have access to education. And these people make our world better. And so that was sort of like the impetus behind wanting to stitch all of these together into like a common theme. And my origin story really is I started out sort of in the traditional way. Like I went and did the MBA thing and, kind of worked in big tech and venture capital. And then I co-founded a couple of my own startups in the tech space. And then I started getting involved in crypto, and then just on my own journey, wanting to understand at a deeper level the human being.
Yeah.
Right. And I know sometimes people will say, well, this sounds woo, this sounds a little, but I actually think more and more people are very interested in this topic. And so I went in to study neuroscience to become a neuroscientist, because I really went in to sort of understand the human psyche beyond psychology, right? Because it affects our whole being, our body, how we show up in this universe, how we're all interconnected. And I started to see patterns amongst all of these things, like new technology, innovation. Even in science, we're doing things like gene editing with CRISPR technology and with AI, and we're talking about consciousness and crypto. And I just thought, really what's happening here is I just see a pattern amongst all these things. They look like different disciplines, but actually they're all the same. They're all about our future, and they're all happening now. But most people don't realize that. They think it's a sci-fi movie.
To me, that's entrepreneurship, Jawna. If people want to say, that doesn't connect. Serial entrepreneurs don't apologize for the different businesses they've been in.
Exactly.
And then there's discovery, and you're a scientist. So there's going to be some discovery.
So I do a little bit of all of
innovate.
It. And, you had asked, I think, or I'm not sure if you teed this up yet, but just like the whole sailboat thing, there was never
people fangirling you.
That's so cool. I love to hear that. I was going to say, so I am a sailing captain, and I live on a Greek island and the Cyclades. So if anyone ever wants a sail plan
better be careful.
For the Greek islands, you can contact me or you can contact Amber.
Yeah.
But I never really did things the way that I was supposed to, that, I did probably like right out.
You've always been a disruptor before people started saying that.
Yeah. And a people pleaser too. And then, you sort of outgrow those things and you realize you don't wait for permission, because if you wait, you will never get permission. You just have to do it. So I was of the school of just do it and ask for forgiveness later, right? And of course, not hurt anyone along the way. But that's really, really been my philosophy. And then the whole living on a sailboat thing was about self-sovereignty, of not feeling like I had to follow the path of
the traditional American dream. And that's kind of evolved and been different too, most recently.
Exactly. And I love all of that. And I've done a little piece of it, but it's just like, maybe that's not me. Yeah. And I also love that I can invite people into my world and say like, hey, let's meet here and I'll sail you there. And it's been an incredible journey. And I get to work with people from all over. And like you said, be careful what you say about the sailing thing, but it's opened a lot of doors for people that maybe have never been sailing. I'll say, I'll take you sailing, or I'll teach you how to do that.
Wow.
And I just feel like, what are we on this earth for if we can't share those things and give those things to other people?
Yeah, we talked in an episode before about being borderless, and technology is available to help us do that. And we don't have to be afraid of it. We have so many options. I interviewed somebody a while back that was in the South Pacific, and he goes, my children have the best education here, and my cost of living is low. But the U.S. can make you kind of trick you into thinking that it's just so bad and so dangerous everywhere.
It's really not. In fact, I've never been more free living in the Greek islands. And I'll just give anyone an example that is curious about that lifestyle. It's about 25% of the cost of living in America. I love America. I'm from the U.S. But if anyone was looking to explore, and I've met lots of families that are sailing around the world with their children, and their children are some of the most amazing kids I've ever met, because like you said, they're actually getting a real world education by interacting with other people and
imagine that.
New languages, cultures, cuisine. So it's been a real treat.
How'd you pick that area then? Is there more business over there for what you're doing?
No, I chose it because I actually have family and cousins on this particular island. So that's really why.
This episode of Pathways has been brought to you by Owl. Owl gives you access to new networks and valuable contacts, otherwise unreachable without a referral. Get in touch instantly in real time on a private one-on-one audio call. Search through vetted professionals to connect with the people you are looking for. Download the Owl app today and expand your reach. All right. So when people throw around crypto, I think people just think, oh, Bitcoin.
They think of that, and they also think of nefarious activities, because up until a couple of years ago, the legislation around the world wasn't ready for crypto yet, because it was so innovative and it was so disruptive to the central banks, to big banking institutions.
And you were saying, basically, I'm not going to get into politics and medical and all the pharma stuff, but basically when there's rules like legality that happened, or like litigious. Like there's foundational principles that have been developed, but then there's people that take advantage.
Exactly.
And they start to dominate and control. And there's some of that where this decentralization is opening and getting rid of that old school antiquated process.
Exactly. And in fact, the legislation, this has nothing to do with politics or anything like that. I don't really go there. Right?
Neither.
It's just like the legislation was designed for the Industrial Revolution, for banking. All those rails were put in place way back when. And so the world wasn't ready for it yet. And so it allowed this window of people. It was like a Wild West. And so if you wanted to engage in that, I mean, have at it. And people did. And so was it illegal? Was it wrong? It's a gray area.
Yeah.
It's not really for me to say, but there was a lot of people taking advantage of
been innovated or, established.
You're a bit of a cowboy. And some people were celebrated for this. And in that crypto world, we sort of like this anti-establishment because we are all about disruption.
We're not shooting guns.
Yeah, and exactly. And we're about like decentralization of power to enable more people to have access to education, financial means to be able to feed their families. Like it's not all about making money off of a meme coin. Like some people are truly feeding their families with this.
Oh, okay. So keep going with crypto because again, I want to demystify that and have people just think, oh, she just buys Bitcoin and just watches the market. It's like, that's not what you're doing. You're doing things on the chain.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. So I've helped over 1,000 different crypto projects launch on the blockchain across all chains. And I worked from the legislative side of it. So I worked with a group based out of the Marshall Islands because it was legislation that was most similar to Washington's LLC, the Limited Liability Corporation. So it was sort of a copy and paste of that. And because the rest of the legislation in the US wasn't ready at a statutory level for all the things happening, we said, okay, how can we make this work in the Marshall Islands so that people can still be registering their DAOs and their legal entities above board? So I've seen a lot of different capacities in terms of it wasn't all about making money. In fact, a lot of these people were setting up nonprofit legal entities to be able to work with people from countries all around the world where these people would never normally get an opportunity because they needed like an HB1 visa to work in the US. It's like if you put it on the blockchain, we're borderless. You don't need a visa. I can still pay you. I can send it to you through a wallet. So we're not going through traditional banking SWIFT systems. And if you think about the percentage of the population, the numbers in the billions of people that are unbanked, zero bank account, operate completely.
Well, that's what I brought up to Rachel in the previous episode was that I don't think a lot of people realize that not everyone can just walk into their own bank and open.
Even here in the US, people really underestimate the power of paying in cash. And so cash then becomes sort of like a war on cash. It's like people that had more financial means don't use cash in general.
Okay. And that's where these families are actually feeding themselves through coins and other
different parts of the world. It's like, I don't want to call out any part of the world to stereotype it, but just say all over the world.
Sure.
Like I was working on projects where, let's say, instead of a company, instead of it being a traditional corporation, it was called a DAO. And maybe Rachel touched on this.
No. So I've read the acronyms and I actually wrote it down, but I didn't break it down. So that is the decentralized.
It's a decentralized autonomous organization. And you can think of it as a modern day innovative corporation or LLC.
Sounds really fancy and like scary sometimes.
It's really just a group of people coming together with a shared mission. And then they decide to put like their corporate charter, just in terms of like what their mission, vision, values are, who's like on the board, if there is a board. You make that all available to everybody that say works there or participates in that DAO, and those people get compensated. So whatever the mission is, like maybe, there's one in the scientific community called Vita DAO. There's other ones called Moon DAO where there's
subject matter expert gets paid for facilitating the process.
It could be, maybe they're a coder, they're a developer, maybe they're a community manager, and maybe in the beginning they're just paid like a token to just sort of be like a founding member. And then there are other ones.
That's kind of like $1 for a transaction of real estate back in the day.
Yeah, for example, yes. And so this allows them to receive that money in their crypto wallets without needing a bank. And then here's the thing though with crypto, eventually, if you want to actually hold cash in your hand, you do need to transact with a traditional bank. And what we see in a lot of these other countries where
the government's kind of control,
they would find somebody that has a bank account and they'll just do sort of like this street market, black market, like, hey, I'll send this to you, give me the cash.
Got it.
But that happens even today, right? It's like, it happens everywhere. So to me, crypto it's like AI. I don't think it's anything to fear. My hope is that people give it a chance because it's not going anywhere.
Right.
When you have BlackRock, Jamie Dimon, Fidelity, and every other huge person across across the globe, central banks behind this, it's not going anywhere. So just think of it as a technology that enables simplification of moving money. And I think what the crypto space has done really well is enabling the technology maybe where they could have done a little bit better, and they're starting to do it now, is explaining things simplistically. Because right now, if I were to tell my mother, open a crypto wallet and here I'll pop you, some ETH or whatever, she would say, come again?
So well, then you have to remember your key. That's like my biggest holdup is what do you do with these people that just forget their stuff?
You need to remember like your seed phrase. And so that's the part that's like kludgy and clunky. And that's because it was designed by engineers for engineers.
Yeah.
And now when we get bigger companies involved, like it's just like all those big names I mentioned, they know how to work with consumers because they've been doing it for decades and decades. And so I think we're going to blend that really exciting technology that enables a lot with sort of like the traditional knowing how to work with the end consumer.
Yeah.
And marrying the two to provide something that's a little bit easier to use and has like a better user experience.
Yeah. Anne Goldberg was talking about technology and I was like, okay, Apple versus Droid. And she's like, Apple's better for the older person too, because it's safer.
Yeah. And you also,
but like knowing how to tap, like, so creating that end user experience is probably it's huge. I'm not insulting you, but you just mentioned about the seed phrase. It's like, if I were to show most people a crypto wallet, they would say, I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. Yeah.
And I feel like we're getting so much closer to make it so much easier and then not needing...
Still secure, but easier.
Yeah, and not needing to like remember your seed phrase, because remembering your seed phrase, you have to actually write it down physically. And it's like, isn't that very old-fashioned?
Right. Right. That's kind of funny that you'd have to go old school to be, hip with your cold wallet. Or no, is that a cold wallet?
Well, a cold wallet is when, almost think of it as a digital paper version. So you would put that in your safe. Maybe you have a safe deposit box and you put that in there and it's got all of your...
Get it off the chain.
And nobody can steal, it's like taking off chain. But I always worry, what if there's a fire? What if that bank all of a sudden no longer has...
the digitization that's supposed to happen.
Yeah. And like, what if it doesn't work?
Oh, see, we're going to make it less scary. I promise, people. You're listening to Pathways with Amber Stitt. For more episodes like this, plus so much more, check out the podcast page at amberstitt.com. Let's take action together. Now let's get back to our episode. If I'm going to nerd out for a moment, if we haven't already done that, can we talk about the vagus nerve?
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to go from crypto to the vagus nerve. It's sort of
we have limited time together, my friend. Going back to like the neuroscience part of you and like what you talk about in your book and beyond, I've kind of paid attention to some of this personally. That's why I'm like, let me talk about this. But I think sometimes people don't take their literal internal, maybe gut feeling intuition seriously. And that can really help protect people. And so literally a gut check could save your life, right? Or save your money.
Really. I mean, I'll be quick, but you can kind of view, like the book is titled The Biohacking Entrepreneur. And for me, I love all of this, longevity science, health span, joy span, biohacking. My thing is, it doesn't matter what protocol you use or what supplement you take, or, you're the next Brian Johnson or whomever. Andrew Huberman, if your core is not settled, meaning your nervous system, it's putting lipstick on a pig. It really doesn't. Yeah, it's sort of like, if that's not settled and taken care of, and for the most part, most people's are not. And they're...
So where is it?
So it weaves through like your spinal
because it's long.
cord.
I remember looking at
it basically goes, he talks
about it in his chart.
Yeah. It basically just goes through the core of the body and it touches upon like every organ. And you can kind of think of it as like your body's internet.
Okay.
And so for people to just understand, their nervous system has two parts, like a sympathetic and a parasympathetic part. And if you're always in like this fight or flight mode, which most of us are because life is busy.
Some of us are addicted to the chase of the game.
Exactly. Some people are addicted to the chase of the game. And it's no coincidence that all of these social media apps, they hire neuroscientists to make these
dopamine hits are like,
this is all by design. And so I don't do that because I don't believe in doing that. But I will say we are hired for that. And I've called on a lot in the gaming industry to help make it more sticky. And I just don't participate in that because I feel like that's not the way I want to serve people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the vagus nerve, people can search that up. They can learn about it. It's really about
You do want to get yourself out of that fight or flight.
You do. And you ideally can't live in one state or it's unhealthy. Like you should constantly be in a state of flux of like, a little bit of fight and flight because it gives you the motivation. And, people talk about cortisol being so bad, but actually cortisol is very healthy, and it's what gets you out of bed in the morning, and it's what makes you run from a tiger. And so it's just when you're in a constant state of like high cortisol, it just has a negative cascading effect across the body. Like it lowers your testosterone levels, and men and women both have testosterone. A lot of women are surprised to hear that. And that's where you get fatigue, brain fog, and then it just has a cascading effect across like your insulin and your glucose levels. And that's the part to me that we can do all of these fancy protocols. We can invest tons of money in supplements, but I'm of the opinion that do all of that if you want, but address the baseline first, because if you don't do that, you're not really helping yourself.
Have you always been really good about this aspect?
No, I wasn't. So this comes from a learned experience. And I'll just say, without getting into the details of it, I was involved in a partnership where I'll just say it was completely smoke and mirrors, and I was business, and I was highly deceived. And it just taught me a lot about, I'm very trusting, and I know that about myself. And I know that maybe I shouldn't say it on a podcast, but it makes you a little vulnerable. But I also think I've never connected with somebody that wasn't a little vulnerable with me. So I don't want to lose that part of me. So that's why I thought maybe I'll write about this, because we have so many biohacking protocols out there from like Dr. Andrew Huberman and Peter Attia, all these amazing people, and all the other co-authors in the book. But I thought no one really talks about this sort of just basic baseline. It's free.
Because you can set your environment. If you're in that state, what can you do? And maybe it's limiting the distractions.
It's limiting the distractions. And you know what is my favorite thing, and I hope it's okay to say here, is it's just like do a water fast for 24 hours. You know what? Most people have never gone more than 15 hours without eating.
Yeah.
And we're blessed that we don't live in a place where...
Today I'm doing that. I haven't eaten all day.
Well, it makes... we'll talk
So
offline.
that's how I'm so dialed in and laser focused. See, it's working.
It really does work, but I'll talk later.
I'm just kidding. No, but I really have never done that. Like I'll try to do 15, 16 hours of food, like eat by 5, not eat by 10 in the morning. That works for me to,
Yeah, it has to work for you.
But I feel like I'm way less inflamed, less swollen, and you get less cravings, I think.
You absolutely do, because you're changing your entire gut microbiome. And so once that shifts out...
Tell me. No.
Well, I don't want to overstay my welcome here, but once you do that, so your brain, your gut, and your heart all have neurons, and they're all communicating with your brain. And so if you have an unhealthy gut, which most people do, like 88% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy, and they're unaware of it. It's not their fault. It's just, again, this information has largely been gatekept, and it's been for very privileged people that had access to longevity clinics that are like $100K a year. The average person can't afford that. So now all of this stuff is like showing up on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, which I love because people can get a free education on this. But people should know that their gut actually, like that's where all your serotonin is produced. Like the feel good, happy hormones. And
I guess most people don't even think that
they don't think of that.
The reason,
Yeah, they don't think of that. And then if you're just sort of grinding away and you're a busy entrepreneur and you just don't make time for taking care of yourself. I know it sounds so cliche, but that's the biggest shift I've made too, is you have to be a little selfish. You have to take care of yourself first.
Literally go simple to the baseline of it all.
Baseline. It's like, the water fasting, that's just like a lifestyle for me. It's changed my life. And also, I'm not diabetic. I'm not pre-diabetic, but I wear a continuous glucose monitor because I don't want to become, because like I said, 88% of Americans are metabolic syndrome, basically. Yeah. And that's just due to our diet. That's what the government recommends is the pyramid. If you eat that diet,
that's a whole other episode.
You will be on insulin. And then, it's just
interesting. That's a whole other episode.
We'll go there another time. But yeah,
I love collecting all the data. But how can people find you outside of maybe seeing you tomorrow?
Yes, I'll be around
celebrating the new book. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. And thank you again for this opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here and talking with you. Well, people can find me on social media. For example, like on LinkedIn, it's Jawna Standish. On Instagram, it's neuroscience Jawna.
Okay. And I'll link it in the show notes too. That to give you you got to remember, because I know sometimes we have everything just pre-programmed. But so like if we were to follow you, are you helping people today? Like, what is your work today?
Yeah.
Because you're working with a lot of projects too.
I'm working with a lot of different...
on the blockchain. So that's not really for all.
Yeah, it's not for all. And I'm also working with corporations. So some Fortune 500 companies, I'm working with their sales teams, but I'm also working with a lot of blockchain foundations and helping projects get launched on the blockchain. And we're weaving in the whole AI piece of this, the consciousness component, and sort of the longevity piece of it.
So that's really the community that can be, you guys can all help each other out, it sounds like. So I want to make sure that people know, like what would overlap for their business?
Yeah. So I would say
work with you.
Anyone in business, really.
Okay. More to come, Jawna. All right. And I'll be booking my trip next year. So we'll just get you that itinerary and we'll be ready to go.
The island of Syros. Okay. You will not be disappointed. Okay. It's the island that nobody's heard of, but it's Greek people know about it.
Okay. All right.
So thank you so much.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you officially.
Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Pathways Unleashed, recorded at OWL headquarters here in Delray Beach, Florida. Join us for more powerful conversations with real people who dare to design life on their own terms. Until next time, keep taking action on your unique path.